YouTube, what's good? Jamie the Kid 00 here, coming at you guys with a little discussion video that has nothing actually to do with cards. Something I actually really need to take a foray into, which is regrettably a little rip-off of oh boy Will, but I need to start taking a foray into this because I haven't done this in so long. It's actually talking about a bit of theory involving the game, but it's the game that's played before and after you even play any cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Some people will notice different things. I'm going to be referring to it throughout this video as being tilted, or as I otherwise know it, kind of as a psychology standpoint, being emotionally compromised within the game. Now, being emotionally compromised within your game and going into the game tilted can mean many things and can be caused by many things, but it's mainly due, and I'm going to undo this because I'm actually so uncomfortable, it's mainly due to entering the game with pre-arranged expectations of your opponent. Those can be in both ways. You can be tilted, in my opinion, by being a player of a high ego, we'll say high ego, going to a game against an opponent you would say deem a scrub. Let's go with that example. This is a small example which doesn't happen very often because you will usually win anyway. But you'll go into that game and you won't play correctly. You will play possibly over-aggressively, possibly too passively. They usually have similar results, but you will play in a way in which you shouldn't, which may result in you making mistakes in which you realistically shouldn't have because you just ran in like a bull in a china shop expecting to win with your powerful deck and your higher level of experience. This has happened to myself. Both of the kind of situations I'm going to use in this video have happened to myself, and I expect they will have happened to yourselves as well. You will have gone into a game with your brand new Necros deck, or like a while ago, brand new Mermail, brand new Dragon Ruler, and expected to just destroy this kid and move on to your next round, and something has blown you out. Maybe you didn't lose the match, maybe you just lost one game and you were like, wow, how did that happen? Simple as that. But the main kind of emotional compromise and the main kind of tilting I need to talk about is the negative kind. When you are going into a game against an opponent which you deem to be better than yourself, someone you find yourself afraid of in this game. This is something that mainly occurs on a local level, but it has happened to me at competitive levels. This is why I no longer indulge as much in celebritizing players. When I was a lot younger in the game and a lot kind of, you know, smaller in the tooth, as they say, I think that's the term, I used to idolize players, and a lot of players will do. I imagine a lot of players, especially the Americans, if one of them were to sit down opposite Patrick Hoban, I imagine they would be a bit apprehensive about how the game would go and possibly quite pessimistic given his track record. I can guarantee you that is the absolute worst way to go into one of those games. We used to have a player, I'll give an example, when I was in South Wales at university, we used to have a player, his name was Tom, we'll call him Tom, and he was, at the time, established the best player in the locals. He had all of the gear. He had the Spellground, he had the best decks, he had the high rarity decks, and he was the good player. He won all the events, or most of them, and as far as every player in the room was concerned, he was the best player. And if a player sat down opposite him, they had already lost the game before they started playing, unless they felt they were on an even level with him, which very few people in the room did. Most of those people were his friends, and they were of that kind of I'm a good player culture anyway. So they went into that was fine. Player like me, at the time I was very new to the competitive scene, and if I would sit down against this gentleman, I had already lost the game, because I would sit down expecting to lose, because I already felt that he was better than me. So when I was going into games against him, I would play in ways in which were incorrect. Your best way to play the game is calmly and collectedly, sorry, I can't really find the words, and to try and make, of course, how you would in Yu-Gi-Oh! The best use of your cards and the optimal plays possible. In situations in which you fear an opponent, you may act too passively or not go for a play because you fear ridicule. That was an example that I would easily give. There were some plays in which I didn't do because I was afraid my opponent would regard them as misplays. Now that I look back on that, that's really quite silly. But in all honesty, there are some situations, especially in testing with friends, in which I still do that, and I know that isn't correct, but something you do. Another situation you can also find yourself in when you're compromised in these games is you can overextend. You can think you have an avenue to beat this opponent and get away from them, or finally seize that victory against that long-fought rival, and you'll misplay and run into something just because you feel that you can be so aggressive in that situation. And you're just so compromised in your head that you have to do this, you have to make these plays, you have to play passively because that bigger one's going to be a misplay, or you have to go big because you have to win now, because otherwise they're so good that they're going to capitalize on you not going big now and you'll lose because you went so huge. And you can find yourself in either of those situations, and there are a myriad of examples I can give you on this. If you go into games tilted and think that a player is so much better than you, you might not look into things. There was a fairly well-respected player that I played against, which I wholeheartedly believed was a very good player. I played him. I lost the first game fair and square. I won the second game, and the third game I opened absolutely abysmal, and I thought nothing of it, and I'd never watched my opponent in the way they maneuver the deck, and I found out later on I'd been stacked. And I was so intimidated by the opponent and their reputability anyway, that afterwards when I was advised of that, I went, wow, I never thought of that, I never actually watched them, I just trusted them. And I mean, maybe I wasn't stacked, but I was advised that that's more than likely what happened, because my hand was abysmal to his incredible hand. And that happened. It's something that happens. But throughout your career, I find that aside from skill level, if you want to top a major event, or if you even want to win locals and you find yourself up against that locals tyrant, you need to go into the game clean-minded. I never I should apologise, this video has kind of been a tangent. I never script any of my videos, I never have any intention to do so. I just kind of sat down and went, I want to talk about emotional compromise in the game. But in all honesty, if you want to beat that player that has been a long-standing wall to you, what you need to do is you need to enter that game against an opponent that you've never met. You need to treat that opponent as someone you've never met and just focus on the playmat. Regrettably, I have that focus too much now in the game. If anyone watches me play at a major event, or even at a small event, I won't look at my opponent. I can get enough body language from their hands that I don't have to look at their face. The hands can tell me enough, kind of the confidence in which they make their plays. So with regards to their personal position, that's absolutely fine. That's another video we're going to get into entirely. But I will not look at my opponent, I will look at their mat, because I do not want to judge their skill, because everyone is internally judgmental. I will judge an opponent on how they look, how I know they've played in the rest of the event, what they're playing, and things like that. And what I want to just focus on absolutely is the exact game state in front of me. So I will just look at the mat and establish the exact game state in front of me, almost as if I'm playing Dueling Network. I will make my reads as and when I need them. The little nuances of information my opponent will forfeit, the way they speak, the shake of their voice, the confidence in what they're doing, asking for responses in certain situations like that. I'm getting into the tangent of that other video, but that's all fine. But what I will concentrate on solely is the game state, and that's how you guys should do it. You are fine to interact with that opponent, but please do not bring any preconceptions into your game. Ever. And even later on, if you find yourself doing something wrong, the worst thing you can do is focus on it. I remember reading one ARG article which was really interesting, which was, if you make a misplay in a game and you realise yourself on a downward slope, it was quite easy to find yourself in a position where you spend the rest of the game deciding how best to tell your opponents you got sacked, or deciding how best to tell your friends you got sacked, or deciding how best to tell your opponents you threw away the game. Whereas in actuality, you possibly have, or you could find yourself in a situation where with a skillful play you can drag it back, but you're too busy thinking about how you've already lost the game and how you're going to come out of that loss that you've already forfeited the game there. It's another form of emotional compromise that you just need to take away. It's important to remember with every game, it is a singular game, and you will have to concentrate solely on winning that singular game. Whether it's the first round of a YCS, the final round bubble of a YCS, game 3 in which you have to win it to top, final round of the actual YCS where you're in the finals and you want that ultra rare giant hand, that ultra rare Ascension Sky Dragon. You've got to win that game, but you've just had your opponent drop a massively good hand on you and you're just thinking about how much you've just been sacked. You can't be thinking that. It's important that throughout the state of your game you almost stay numb to it. You have to, of course, respond adequately to certain situations, but you have to respond numb to those emotions which aren't going to get you anywhere. The emotions that are going to stop you thinking, or have you think too aggressively, or too passively, or too pessimistically. You have to focus on the reads that you will already have if you're a good player, your ability to predict what your opponent's probably having face down, what they're able to do with the resources they have available to you, what you know that they have, what they should have based on the patterns of their plays. You have to keep concentrating on the facts and your reads. You cannot add your own emotional compromise to that. So this has been kind of an odd one, and I know the kind of stuff I'm really talking about is very vague. And take from this what you will. There are loads of other examples that will more than likely be another part of this, but I hope this has helped you guys out a little bit. with regards to the things that you're probably thinking, because I know a lot of players have thought this. I felt this for a very long time, and when I cracked it, I went, wow, I can beat anyone, and I can. There was a regionals I was at one time where I beat 3 players that I feel that a year before I would have been absolutely tilted by, and I would have just thrown the game away there. And because I entered that regional, sat down opposite them and went, I can beat you. I'm really confident at the moment. I feel okay. I'm just not going to focus on who you are. I'm going to focus on what you put in front of me. And I did. And I won. And I beat all of them. So there you go. Once you can tear down your heroes, you can beat your heroes. There you go. So yeah, guys, this has been Jamie the Kid 00 on a bit of an emotional compromise. I know that people haven't really discussed this in this kind of way. I know people have talked about tilt and pessimism in games, but I've definitely enjoyed doing this one. Please let me know down below if you want to hear more of these kind of outside of the game theories, or extra game theories as I'll probably call them. And let me know down in the comments what kind of theories you'd like me to talk about, because if you guys have experienced anything, I'd love to have ideas on that, because I'd love to talk about it. Psychology is my forte. I studied it in university for 3 years. I definitely love to do a bit of game psychology on this channel, because I feel it's kind of a niche area I can definitely tap into. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this kind of taster. Maybe with some of these I will script them in future now that I think about it, because I feel this one would have been a lot better scripted, so maybe I'll redo this in the future. But as per usual, we're just going to do the usual promotion of the video. Feel free to leave a like, I think it's down this way, if you enjoyed what I talked about. Feel free to subscribe, I believe it's up here, if you want to see more of the same, because we're definitely taking a turn in the right direction on this channel. If you think your friends would benefit from it, which face it, I feel all of your friends could benefit from it, please feel free to share it with your friends, share it on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you may feel it would be best to share it. And please leave a comment down below if there's anything you want to tell me about. This has been Jamie the Kid 00. I've had a lot of fun with this one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.